The weather pattern is turning colder across Europe and the United States just in time for the start of 2025, and this is all thanks to the return of the negative NAO phase, something which was absent for much of December but made a significant appearance back in mid-November, and it's no coincidence that this was quickly followed by a substantial cold wave across Europe with several waves of snow. This forecast is going to go over the very latest information without the hype about these intriguing changes which are now underway on both sides of the Atlantic, so you know what to expect and prepare for. I wanted to start off with an analysis of what's happening in Europe as we speak. Looking out over the Atlantic, we see a large low-pressure system centered near the Azores Islands, replacing the persistent anticyclonic influence we've had in that region in December, with a slow-moving cold front extending all the way to the Baltic countries. Behind that front, we see northerly winds on their way down, marking the beginning of this changing pattern. With colder air coming in and cutting into this band of precipitation, many areas have started off with rain before switching over to snow, and I think we're going to continue to see this trend through this evening, especially around southern Germany. By early Friday, the precipitation associated with this front is going to appear to decrease in coverage as it switches to snow over the Alps, but once the cold front gets past that terrain, we see an intense band of rainfall very quickly get its act together over Hungary, Croatia, and Slovenia. This will propagate southward with rain along the warm Adriatic coast and heavy snow in the interior before burning out early Saturday morning around Greece. It's quite a dynamic system to say the least, but something even bigger is going to be arriving. Remember that large low-pressure system near the Azores Islands? Well, here it is, bringing multiple waves of heavy rain and strong winds to mainland Portugal as early as Sunday, and with cold air already in place from Ireland and the UK into mainland Europe in the wake of that cold wave which we just watched unfold, the stage is set for wintry weather, and that's exactly what we see on the latest model guidance. Look at all that snow as this precipitation shield pushes into cold air, but I also don't want to ignore the orange shade between the rain and snow. This represents the potential for freezing rain, quite a common occurrence in these situations where we have warm air pushing over a cold air mass. So overall, this could be quite a messy situation as we transition from the weekend into next week with multiple types of precipitation in some places. In addition, despite mild Atlantic air making another visit to Europe ahead of that system, we should see colder air quickly replace it on the back end of that low. So if we can get more Atlantic systems to move in by the middle to latter half of next week, the stage could once again be set for some additional rounds of snow. If you've watched my channel before, then you know I don't like going too far ahead when looking at the models for obvious reasons. We all know how much things can change even just a few days in advance. One thing is for sure though, the weather pattern is changing, it's going to get colder for many, and chances of snow are going to increase as a result. What we still have to figure out is the details, and this is something that's going to be slowly revealed as we go forward. For now, this is how much snow we could see across Europe between Thursday and Sunday. The chance of snow is going to be quite high from the Norwegian Sea down into Central Europe due to widespread and persistent snow showers, a few polar lows, and even ocean effect snowfall. Very impressive totals across Ireland and the UK according to this model as well, and this is going to be for that system arriving over the weekend, but due to the particularly unpredictable nature of snowfall events in this part of Europe, not to mention the strange situation we're going to have this time with a mixture of rain, freezing rain, and snow, I wouldn't recommend taking this too seriously just yet, but nonetheless this is undoubtedly a growing trend which I think is worth watching. Lastly, once you get further south, especially around the Balkans and Turkey for example, most of the snow should be confined to higher terrain. As far as the freezing rain risk goes, we might have at least a slight glaze across a swath of Europe as this system pushes inland. Thankfully, I'm not seeing any strong indications of widespread problematic ice accumulation, but one area that I am a little more concerned about is Wales. Weather models agree that freezing rain could last most of the day on Sunday, so this could allow for potentially dangerous amounts of ice accumulation on some surfaces. I'll keep you updated on how things progress in Europe over the next week or so, but now it's time to take a look at what's going on in the United States. Just like Europe, colder weather has already started to move in. In this case, it's coming behind a low-pressure system which is now exiting the northeast. By later today, a weak Clipper system is going to fly across Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio before crashing into the Appalachian Mountains. But look at this larger system out on the west coast. This was actually named Winter Storm Blair by the Weather Channel, since this is going to be the one to watch for widespread ice and snow from the Central Plains all the way out to the East Coast through early next week. And in addition to the risk of widespread and impactful winter precipitation, Arctic air is really going to tighten its grip on the lower 48 in its wake, opening the door to more chances of snow as we go into next week and maybe even beyond. So we have a pretty good idea about what's going to be happening for the rest of this week, but what can we expect beyond that? Well, in addition to the weather models being very consistent in showing further invasions of Arctic air, the Climate Prediction Center has acknowledged those trends and they are reflected on some of these graphics. First off, take a look at the hazardous temperatures outlook. Almost everyone east of the Great Plains, excluding New England, has a risk of potentially dangerous cold air between January 9th and the 14th, with a high risk of hazardous cold encompassing the southeastern United States for the January 9th to the 11th timeframe. Perhaps even more interesting is the heavy snow risk map. One area extends from Texas to the Carolinas for January 9th through the 10th, with two other risk areas valid through the 13th for the northern plains and also the interior northeast. Of course, those hazard outlooks are valid for a time frame beyond 1 week in advance, and their purpose is to raise awareness of what the overall weather pattern is looking like and what it may be capable of. Further updates regarding specific snowstorms and the severity of Arctic air masses will be coming soon, in addition to everything you need to know here in Europe. Now, to wrap up today's forecast, here's a look at today's featured photos, starting with this snowy scene from Montana in the northwestern United States. From Stormy Alert, we have another great submission. This was taken in Andorra back in December. Despite many areas being warmer than usual in December, we still saw some heavy snowfall events in different areas. For example, the Alps had quite a bit of snow, as you can see here, and here's an example of how much snow there was in northern Sweden around the middle of December. Don't forget to submit your own photos if you haven't already. The link to my Discord server will be in the description as always. Remember to stay tuned for the next video, but for now, thanks for watching.